Ladies and gentlemen, people often assume narcissists burn through relationships, that their manipulation and vanity eventually push partners away. But what if I told you that some narcissists stay married for 30, 40, even 50 years, not because of love in the way you'd hope, but because the marriage serves a purpose? Their commitment isn't rooted in romance. It's built on strategy, control, and a psychological dynamic that stretches across decades. If you truly want to understand why certain marriages never fall apart despite deep dysfunction, you have to look at the hidden framework holding them together. And it might shock you. When most people imagine marriage, they think of a partnership based on care, trust, and emotional closeness. But for a narcissist, the union often functions as something entirely different. It isn't a romantic bond so much as a long-term arrangement crafted to fulfill specific roles in their life. A narcissist doesn't view marriage as a space for vulnerability or emotional sharing. They see it as a structure that brings stability, predictability, and a constant flow of admiration or validation. In their mind, marriage becomes a tool, an ongoing stage on which they can perform the role they've built for themselves. As cold or calculated as this may sound, it explains how so many narcissists manage to remain married for decades. To them, the marriage is useful. It organizes their world. It gives them the appearance of success and normalcy, something deeply important to someone who is obsessed with how others perceive them. The idea of being seen as the spouse who failed, the partner who couldn't hold their life together, is unbearable. Their commitment isn't driven by deep love, but by the practical reality that this arrangement serves their needs better than the alternatives. They're not blind to the convenience either. A long-term relationship gives them someone to fill roles they don't want to handle, raising children, managing the home, absorbing emotional blowback. The spouse becomes a stable figure, someone who catches the weight of their moods, frustrations, and ambitions. Over time, this stability becomes mutually reinforcing. The narcissist depends on the marriage to hold their world together, while the spouse becomes conditioned to keep meeting their expectations because it feels safer than constant conflict. A narcissist doesn't always view themselves as cruel or manipulative. In their own mind, they might genuinely believe they're being a good partner simply by staying, by maintaining the household, by ensuring the life they built remains standing. Love for them is expressed through the maintenance of this structure, not through empathy or closeness. This is why people are often shocked when they see a narcissist's marriage last for decades. They expect chaos or destruction. But what they don't see is that the marriage is functioning exactly the way the narcissist wants, as a foundation that protects their identity. A narcissist doesn't need passion or emotional reciprocity to stay committed. What they need is order, usefulness, and the assurance that their world is running according to the script they've written. That alone is enough to keep them in a relationship for decades. One of the strongest forces anchoring a narcissist to a long-term marriage is the quiet, steady control they exert over the relationship. Control isn't always explosive. It doesn't always sound like yelling or demands. The most enduring control is subtle, almost invisible, sometimes even to the partner living with it. A narcissist thrives when everything around them bends to their rhythm. They shape the emotional climate in ways that keep them at the center, ensuring their needs always take priority. This control appears in many forms. Sometimes it's emotional, moods shifting like weather, storms followed by calm, keeping the partner slightly off balance and constantly adjusting. Other times it's conversational, reframing discussions so that every topic leads back to them, or dismissing anything that threatens their image. Eventually, the cumulative effect is undeniable. The partner learns which topics are safe, which words avoid conflict, which behaviors stabilize the household. This isn't accidental. It's a slow tightening of boundaries until the narcissist holds most of the power without needing to openly demand it. What's fascinating is that many narcissists don't even see this as harmful. To them, this control feels natural, even necessary. They believe they're guiding the relationship, keeping it orderly, being the rational one who prevents chaos. Meanwhile, the spouse gradually loses a sense of their own agency, becoming so used to the narcissist's way that it feels like the only way to keep peace. This dynamic creates a strange kind of stability. As long as the narcissist feels secure and their needs are met, they have no reason to leave. The marriage becomes a system they've engineered, predictable, familiar. The partner may even come to rely on the narcissist's direction as much as the narcissist relies on their compliance. This is why control becomes such a powerful glue. It doesn't always look toxic from the outside because the most effective control is quiet and consistent. It allows the narcissist to stay for decades, not out of deep connection, but because they've built an environment where they always feel central, protected, and in charge. Another overlooked reason narcissists stay married for decades is the gradual conditioning of their partner. This isn't usually a deliberate plan, but it unfolds naturally through years of recurring patterns. The spouse slowly learns what keeps peace, what sparks conflict, and what earns approval. It's a subtle reward and punishment system that shapes behavior to fit the narcissist's expectations. What begins as small compromises becomes an entire lifestyle. Early on, the partner may push back, argue, or assert needs, but over time, they notice the patterns. Speaking up leads to arguments, silence, or withdrawal, while staying quiet keeps harmony. Agreeing brings smoother days or at least less tension. These lessons sink in gradually, often without awareness, until they become habit. The partner begins to anticipate reactions and adjusts behavior before conflict even starts. This isn't weakness, it's survival. In any relationship with an imbalance of emotional power, the other person naturally adapts. Eventually, those adaptations feel normal. The partner loses track of where their own preferences end and the narcissist's demands begin. What once felt like compromise becomes just how life is. They may even defend the relationship because the dysfunction has become invisible, woven into routine and family life. This conditioning benefits the narcissist too. Once the partner has adapted, the narcissist doesn't need constant conflict to maintain control. The marriage runs almost automatically. The narcissist gets compliance and stability with minimal effort, and the partner feels they're preserving peace, even if it means ignoring their own needs. This invisible dance is what allows some marriages to last not just years, but decades. Both people become part of a system that sustains itself, often without realizing how deeply they're trapped in it. For a narcissist, the image of the marriage can matter as much, or more, than the marriage itself. They don't just live the relationship, they curate it. The union becomes a public symbol, proof that they're successful, desirable, capable. The appearance of a long-lasting marriage becomes part of their identity. It reassures them that they're in control, that they aren't like the people who fail. This obsession with image becomes an extremely powerful force. Divorce feels like public humiliation, a crack in their carefully crafted life. They fear being judged, pitied, or seen as abandoned. Even if the marriage is emotionally hollow, they work hard to maintain its outward shine. They'll post smiling photos, talk proudly about anniversaries, praise their spouse publicly, anything to reinforce the image that everything is perfect. This creates a social pressure that keeps the marriage intact. Their reputation is tied to the union, so they protect it fiercely. They may perform gestures that look loving, trips, gifts, public affection, but these gestures serve the image more than the relationship. The spouse often becomes part of this performance too, smiling through discomfort, downplaying issues, maintaining the facade. The longer the performance lasts, the harder it becomes to break character. Leaving would mean admitting the picture wasn't real. This commitment to appearances becomes its own kind of glue, binding the narcissist to the marriage even when the emotional foundation has long since eroded. Another powerful force keeping a narcissist in a decades-long marriage is the network of dependencies that forms over time. Emotional needs, finances, routines, children, social circles, all gradually weave the couple's lives together until separating feels impossible. Both partners develop dependencies. For the narcissist, the spouse becomes the most reliable source of emotional supply, admiration, validation, and even a target for frustration when life goes wrong. This cycle becomes predictable. The narcissist acts, the partner reacts, and the loop continues. Even negative reactions feed the narcissist's sense of significance. The marriage becomes a closed system sustaining their ego. For the partner, a different kind of dependency forms. Years in the same emotional atmosphere condition them to their role: caretaker, peacekeeper, supporter. They might feel needed in a way that's hard to walk away from. Practical ties like shared responsibilities, property, finances, and children add weight to staying. The thought of dismantling the life they've built feels overwhelming. These dependencies can create a false sense of stability. The routines of daily life disguise the emotional erosion. Endurance gets mistaken for love. The narcissist depends on the partner to regulate their world, and the partner depends on the narcissist for direction, purpose, or familiarity. The deeper these loops run, the harder they are to break. For the narcissist, these loops are ideal. They get their needs met without renegotiating anything. So year after year, the cycle continues, not because the marriage is thriving, but because both people are bound by ties that neither knows how to fully untangle. Underneath the narcissist's confidence lies a powerful but hidden fear of losing the structure that holds their identity together. Losing a marriage doesn't just mean losing a partner, it means losing stability, predictability, and the proof that they're in control. The idea of everything falling apart feels like standing at the edge of chaos. To a narcissist, divorce feels like an existential threat. It shatters the image they've constructed and forces them to face themselves without distraction. This fear becomes one of the strongest reasons they stay. Even if they're bored or emotionally disengaged, the thought of dismantling their life terrifies them. The partner's presence isn't just emotional. It's a mirror, an audience, an anchor. Without that reflection, the narcissist would feel exposed and vulnerable. This fear often looks like commitment. When they sense their partner pulling away, they suddenly become attentive, affectionate, or involved. This isn't always love. It's an attempt to preserve the structure that protects them. Their fear of abandonment is so intense that they'll temporarily compromise, show tenderness, or act humble just to keep the relationship intact. For the partner, these moments rekindle hope. They create a powerful pull that strengthens the bond, making it even harder to leave. It becomes another cycle. Fear brings them closer, brief affection reassures them, and the marriage persists. In the end, fear of loss becomes a silent guardian of the relationship. It keeps the narcissist anchored, not out of shared happiness, but out of self-preservation. The marriage may not thrive in emotional intimacy, but it shields them from the terror of exposure and loneliness. And that fear alone can keep them bound to the relationship for decades.